The world is moving faster than we can catch our breath. Do you feel like time is getting squeezed, with events piling up right before Christmas? Like somebody's speeding up the clock on history? Or maybe we're just standing in front of something really big and really close? In just a few short days, seas have been blocked by warships. The ground has suddenly erupted. Floods have swallowed whole towns. Man-made lights have flashed in the dark. The sky has been torn apart by technology. Society has been ripped by religion. And even modern cities have plunged into blackness. No time to breathe. No time to understand. Just a feeling of chaos spreading fast. Is it all just random? Or are these pieces falling exactly where they're supposed to? If you think there's still plenty of time, pay close attention. Because the news stories coming up will show you what a chaotic world future might really look like. And I won't keep you waiting long, because right now, we're going to start with 1. U.S. Coast Guard seizes Venezuelan oil tanker. Picture this. A dark night on the ocean off Venezuela, suddenly lit up by searchlights as a huge oil tanker loaded with millions of barrels of thick black crude gets surrounded from all sides. You can imagine the scene. A massive metal ship moving slowly through the waves, with fast Coast Guard vessels closing in tight, making the sea feel like it's boiling over, just like those old warnings about troubled times ahead. On December 21st, in international waters off Venezuela, the U.S. Coast Guard moved in and seized the second tanker from the sanctioned Shadow Fleet. Reuters and Al Jazeera both reported that this wasn't just a routine check. It was a deliberate operation amid rising tensions in world politics. The background makes it all feel even heavier. Back during President Trump's time, Washington stepped up efforts to stop Venezuela from getting around sanctions, with one tanker already seized earlier. Now, the next target, called Bella 1, is being chased hundreds of miles off the Venezuelan coast, according to ABC News and Axios, showing this campaign isn't slowing down. The videos that came out left people shaken. American ships speeding in, special forces jumping right onto the deck, taking control of the crew and sealing off the cargo. Military.com called it the second action in just days, enough to push U.S.-Venezuela relations to the breaking point, like a rope pulled too tight. In all this, the Bible comes to mind with a chilling reminder. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs, and nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." The ocean today isn't just rough from politics. Revelation 16:3 also talks about the sea turning like blood, and the spreading black oil on the water brings to mind warnings about pollution, conflict, and destruction. Of course, arguments broke out right away. Supporters say the U.S. is protecting international order and rules, while opponents call it dangerous provocation. But Axios pointed out, this is part of a bigger, escalating military effort, not just one-off decisions, and that's what's raising fears about global instability. One thing's clear, the sea is stirred up, not just on military maps, but in people's minds too. When money, oil, and military power clash, the results often go way beyond what anyone expects. And this might be another warning sign that the world is getting closer to those days the Bible talked about, urging us all to take a hard look, stay alert, and turn things around before it's too late. 2. A small explosion at Black Diamond Pool in Yellowstone National Park. One surprising moment broke the quiet in Yellowstone. No alarms, no countdown, just a strong burst from underground, with hot mud and steam shooting straight up into the sky. It was all caught clearly on webcam, enough to give you chills. The video spread fast, like nature had just grabbed everyone's attention. On the morning of December 20, in the Biscuit Basin area of Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, Black Diamond Pool suddenly erupted. Fox Weather and East Idaho News confirmed the mud explosion happened out of nowhere, with no evacuation warnings beforehand. We didn't just hear about it, we saw it with our own eyes, through the shaky frames filled with steam. Yellowstone isn't some stranger to this kind of thing. It's the biggest supervolcano in North America, with a geothermal system always simmering down below. According to the USGS, small mud eruptions like this have happened before, but they're rarely caught on camera as clearly as this one. That's what made the unease spread quicker than the hot steam rising from the pool. Around 9:23 inches the morning Mountain Time, hot mud and water exploded forcefully, shooting up hundreds of feet, as AccuWeather reported. No one got hurt, no buildings were damaged, but the ground shook, and that moment was enough to hold your breath if you were watching. You could really feel it. If it had happened just a few hours, or a few steps different, things could have turned out worse. Scientists were quick to calm folks down. They called it a normal geothermal event, from built-up pressure underground getting released. But when you put that explanation next to the Bible, another way of looking at it comes up. Revelation 8-5 talks about fire thrown down to the earth, with thunder, lightning, and earthquakes. Isaiah 24-19 says plain out, "The earth will break apart. The earth will shake violently." Two views, one from science, one from faith, running side by side, but both agreeing on one thing: the ground down there isn't settled anymore. That's why the argument started up. One side says we shouldn't blow the fear out of proportion, since Yellowstone is still being watched closely and safely. The other side, like what Fox 2 Detroit pointed out, warns that more frequent and stronger geothermal activity is a sign of bigger unrest under the earth, and we can't brush it off. When normal keeps happening too often, the line between steady and warning gets blurry. No matter what you call this event, it reminds us there are forces way beyond what people can control. And maybe, like the Bible says, the Lord is shaking the earth, not to destroy it right away, but to wake us up before it's too late. 3. Serious flash flooding in Redding, California. Everything came apart in just a few short minutes. Water poured down from out of nowhere, sweeping away cars, blocking streets, and turning familiar roads in Redding, Shasta County, into chaotic rivers. On December 21st, the flash flood hit without any warning siren, forcing rescue teams into a race against time as people could only huddle out of the way of the powerful water. According to the Redding Record Searchlight and ABC News, many cars were almost completely swallowed up, with water rising several feet in no time. The background made it even scarier. A storm that sat still for 4.5 hours, dumping 2 to 6 inches of rain, causing widespread power outages and bringing the city to a standstill, as reported by CNN. Once the water receded, the New York Times confirmed one person had died, leaving a heavy silence amid the mud and twisted metal. The speed of the disaster didn't give anyone time to prepare. Warnings went out, but the flood came faster than any plans. We see pictures of rescue vehicles blocked, folks stranded on top of their cars, and that cold question comes up. If this happened to us, would we react in time? Flash floods don't just carry away things, they tear apart that fragile sense of safety we all count on. In that setting, the Bible rings out like a direct warning. Matthew 24:37-39 recalls the days of Noah, when people went about their normal lives right up until the flood came and took them all away. The flash flood in Redding was the same, sudden, brutal, and exposing our built-in complacency. Revelation 12:15 describes a flood pouring out like a river to sweep away, making the images of streets turned into raging currents even more haunting. Weather experts give explanations and warnings. A stationary storm, ground soaked with water, steep terrain speeding up the flow. They say events like this could happen more often, not just in California. These predictions sound scientific, but they lead to the same worrying conclusion. Our human defenses can't keep up with nature's pace, and each unusual event costs more. The scariest part isn't just the damage numbers, but how we get used to disasters. When floods become regular news, our alertness wears down. And as the Bible reminds us, water doesn't just destroy, it also cleanses, revealing what we've ignored for too long. But the story doesn't end there. In the darkness of the flood, with power out and the city quiet, a sudden artificial light appears. That's hope? Or maybe just the last illusion before the next waves come rushing in? 4. First responders light up Golisano Children's Hospital in Rochester, New York. On a cold night in Rochester, New York, lights suddenly flashed in the dark. Headlights and red-blue flashing lights cut through the blackness, bouncing off the tall windows of Golisano Children's Hospital. In that moment, the night wasn't quiet anymore. Have you ever wondered why people always try to bring light, even in the deepest darkness? This is the yearly Good Night Lights tradition, where firefighters and police officers line up outside the children's hospital and turn on their lights to say good night to the kids fighting illness. According to WHEC and 13WAM, it's not some big show. It's just a quiet act of kindness that happens regularly in a world full of bad news. Around 6:30 inches the evening, on Crittenden Boulevard, dozens of emergency vehicles stretch out in a row and flip on their lights all at once. As News 10 NBC reported, that burst of light makes the whole neighborhood feel lit up from the inside. For the sick kids looking out their windows, it's more than just lights. It's a reminder that they're not alone, that people out there are thinking about them. The feelings it brings are real and strong. In a world used to disasters, conflicts, and worry, this moment is like taking a slow, deep breath. But then a quiet question comes up. Is this man-made light real hope, or just a fragile dream in the face of the darkness covering humanity? When the lights go off, what's left? The Bible gives us a deeper way to look at it. John 1-5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." The light in Rochester might come from people, but it points to a greater light, the light from God, who steps into the darkness not just to comfort, but to guide the way. Revelation 22-5 paints a picture of no more night, no need for lamps or the sun, because the Lord Himself is the light. When you put that next to the image of emergency vehicles lighting up the hospital, the message gets clearer. Society is longing for light, but the light we make is limited. It can easily go out in bigger storms. Some say this is just a positive thing, a simple act of community kindness. But there are even local voices in Rochester pushing back. Goodness, as precious as it is, can't replace a solid spiritual foundation. These caring acts are like signs that people are searching for something beyond themselves. Maybe God is using those very lights to remind us that in chaotic times, true light doesn't come from metal and electricity, but from hearts turned toward Him. And as those lights fade out, one by one, the question still hangs in the night. Which light will we hold on to when real darkness comes? 5. 3 planes flew through a no-fly zone after the SpaceX rocket explosion. The sky over the Caribbean suddenly lit up with a loud boom. SpaceX's Starship blew up during a test flight, with flames flashing high up like a tear in the air. In just minutes, the sky that we thought we had under control turned dangerous, and authorities had to set up an emergency no-fly zone. But the trouble didn't stop there. According to reports from the Wall Street Journal and New York Post, 3 commercial planes still flew into that restricted area, right through the spot where the explosion happened. While people on the ground watched pieces falling up in the air, passengers and crew had no idea they were so close to disaster. The FAA said the Starship explosion caused a rain of debris that lasted nearly 50 minutes. A JetBlue pilot had to call out Mayday when facing unknown dangers falling from above. According to Seeking Alpha, some flights had to detour for a long time, almost running out of fuel over the ocean, pushing the risk to an extremely high level. Aviation experts warn plainly, rocket debris doesn't pick and choose what it hits. When technology fails at heights of tens of miles, the results don't stay in a lab. They fall right into civilian airspace, where people are completely helpless. Just think about it. If things had been off by a few minutes or a few degrees, what might have happened to the hundreds of lives on those planes? The Bible once described signs from the sky in a chilling way. Revelation 8:10 talks about a great star, blazing like a torch, falling from the sky, polluting the earth and water. The image of starship debris falling from high up reminds many of a falling star, not from nature, but from human hands. Ezekiel 32:7 also stresses, when God acts, he covers the heavens and darkens the stars. Technology, once praised as the light of our age, now shows how fragile it is. One explosion, one mistake, and the sky quickly becomes a place of risk instead of hope. So this isn't just about SpaceX or those 3 planes. It's about the illusion of control that we're holding on to. We reach for the heavens, but forget how small we still are compared to forces beyond our understanding. When debris falls, it's not just burning metal. It's a reminder that technology can't save us. If today's debris fell into the ocean, what might fall on land tomorrow? When the sky isn't as safe as we thought, is a bigger conflict, not just technical, but in what we believe, quietly building from up high down to the ground. 6. Sikh parade, interrupted by anti-immigration group in New Zealand. South Auckland, New Zealand. A religious parade was going along nicely when it suddenly ran right into a protest against it. The street had been full of bright colors, music, and prayers from the Sikh community, but then it got tense with loud chants and opposing signs. In that moment, you could really see a crack in society showing up, plain and simple. No need to guess or make it bigger than it was. According to the Times of India and Hindustan Times, on December 20, South Auckland, the traditional Sikh parade, called Nagar Kirtan, got interrupted when a group calling themselves Patriots showed up. They were chanting "One True God" and holding signs that said, "This is New Zealand, not India." 2 groups of people with 2 different sets of beliefs were facing off right there on a public street, with police watching closely. The background made things heat up fast. The protesters were said to be connected to Brian Tamaki, a controversial figure in New Zealand. They performed the haka, blocked the parade route, and confronted them directly. According to Outlook India, no one got seriously hurt, but the standoff was enough to shock a lot of folks. From the Sikh side, community leaders spoke out, calling for protection of their right to practice religion freely and gather peacefully. As reported by the NZ Herald, they pointed out that Nagar Kirtan is a public religious event, legally organized with cultural meaning, not anything political. Their message was to stay calm, talk things out, and respect each other. On the other side, the protesters said they were standing up for the country's identity and their right to speak their minds. Some supporters saw it as a fair protest, while others warned about the thin line between free speech and threatening a religion. Global Times called it a sign of growing extremism, and local observers talked about how complicated a multicultural society can be. Looking at the bigger picture, the Bible has described conflicts over beliefs as signs of divided times. Matthew 24:9 talks about people being hated because of their faith and what they stand for, which fits these clashes when beliefs become dividing lines. Revelation 11:10 mentions some groups rejoicing in times of division, showing that the problems aren't just in the actions, but in the strong feelings that get stirred up. This isn't just about one parade getting stopped. It's a picture of a society trying to balance cultural diversity, free expression, and mutual respect. New Zealand authorities said they're looking into it to prevent it from happening again, and they're encouraging talk instead of confrontation. The event shows how clear social divides are becoming in modern life. When faith, identity, and politics meet on the same street, trouble can start in just minutes. And while conflicts between people haven't cooled down yet, another quiet question comes up. Where will the next shadow come from? From people's hearts? Or from the technology we're trusting so much? 7. Power outage in San Francisco. Waymo cars freeze up. Teslas keep going. Darkness hit San Francisco out of nowhere on the evening of December 20th. No warning sirens, no quick explanation. Traffic lights went out suddenly, familiar intersections fell quiet, and in that moment, folks realized even the smartest city in the world could go blind for a few minutes. One flick of the switch, and trust in technology started to waver a bit. According to CNBC and Fortune, the big outage affected around 130,000 homes and businesses. Waymo's robo-taxi service had to freeze in place. The cars sat still because their navigation and maps rely completely on power and network connections. Meanwhile, many streets turned chaotic, with people confused in a city that's built to run without much human help. What really surprised everyone was the clear difference right there in the dark. According to PC Mag, some Tesla cars using the FSD system, which relies on AI and real-world sensors, kept moving and adapted to the situation without signals. Pictures of this spread fast, like a real-life example of the tech race. One side frozen because it depends on central systems, the other still rolling through the mess. By the evening of December 21st, Waymo got service back up, according to TipRanks, and plenty of folks praised how quickly the system bounced back. But infrastructure safety experts warned, the issue isn't how long the power was out, but how our whole digital world can shut down from just one weak spot. When the electricity goes off, data goes silent, and AI can't do much without the basics that keep it running. A lot of people connected this to major blackouts that happened in France and other European cities, where traffic, hospitals, and public services fell into chain reactions of trouble. Energy analysts warn about a fragile future. The more complicated the systems get, the faster problems can spread. A society that puts all its hope in technology is pushing itself closer to the edge. The Bible describes darkness as a sign of judgment on empires that trust only in their own strength. Revelation 16:10 talks about darkness covering the throne of the beast, where people suffer because what they worshipped falls apart. Isaiah 5:30 also mentions light being hidden, the land in distress, like punishment for human pride in our own achievements. The picture here isn't just one company's failure or one city's problem. It's a tough reminder. When we put our ultimate trust in systems we've built ourselves, darkness only needs a small crack to pour in. Technology can keep improving, but it's not an everlasting foundation for hope. And when the lights go out, faith shakes, and the question hangs in the quiet city. What are we really holding on to stay steady? That's it. We've just gone through the 7 top news stories around the world right before Christmas. Which one made you think the most? Let us know in the comments below. The 7 events that just happened aren't standing alone anymore, like separate news stories. When you put them side by side, they fit together into one big picture that's shaking in pieces. Rough seas, cracking earth, debris falling from the sky, society splitting apart, technology freezing up, and man-made lights trying hard to push back the darkness that's pouring in. That fast pace doesn't give humanity a chance to catch its breath, because everything is happening too quick, too close, and all at the same time. Out on the open ocean, where warships and oil tankers face off, the sea isn't just a trade route or a political border anymore. It's turned into a mirror showing the world's unrest, where power, oil, and military forces clash. Those roaring waves aren't just from ship engines, they come from people's hearts being stirred up. Do you feel it too? How the ocean isn't quiet like it used to be? Then our eyes get pulled deep into Yellowstone, where mud and steam suddenly burst out, like the earth itself is speaking up. Scientists call it geothermal activity, but that shaking echoes old warnings about the ground splitting and trembling. When the earth shifts like that, we realize we're just temporary guests on a foundation that was never completely solid. Floods hit California without warning, sweeping away cars, lives, and that fragile sense of safety. Flash floods don't wait for people to get ready, just like in Noah's time, when everyday life got cut short by judging waters. In those chaotic moments, human overconfidence shows up plain as day. Are we really prepared when everything turns upside down in just a few hours? In the middle of all the bad news, a bit of light showed up in Rochester when rescue trucks lit up a children's hospital in the dark. It was a touching, human moment that makes you want to believe kindness still has a place. But that light was fragile too. It depended on people, and it only lasted a short while. It's like a reminder. Real light doesn't come from headlights, but from something deeper. Then the sky stopped feeling safe. The SpaceX rocket explosion and pieces falling down forced passenger planes to send out distress calls in mid-air, showing the limits of technology. We've reached space, but one glitch can turn it into dangerous rain on our own kind. When falling stars aren't natural anymore but come from human ambition, the fear feels very real. Down on the ground, society cracked when a religious parade got interrupted by opposing protests. No bombs, no disasters, but divided beliefs cut just as sharp. The shouts, the signs, the glaring looks show how hard it is for people to walk the same path these days. Does it feel familiar? This sense that the world splits into sides faster than it can heal? And then real darkness fell on San Francisco when the power went out, robots stopped, and the smart city stumbled. Waymo cars froze, Teslas kept going for a bit, but behind the comparison is a cold truth. Lose electricity, and our whole digital world can go blind. When systems crash, trust put in the wrong places crashes too, leaving people standing at dark intersections with no signs to guide them. 7 events, 7 arrows, shot from different directions, but all pointing to the same center. How fragile the modern world is. The sea, the land, the waters, the sky, society, human hearts, and technology aren't working on their own anymore. They're echoing each other in a chain reaction. The rush of news doesn't give humanity a break, like a trumpet blasting non-stop, urging us to look straight at reality. The Bible has long painted a bigger picture than this. Signs in the heavens, shaking under the earth, sorrow and confusion among nations, darkness covering empires that trusted only in their own strength. Those prophecies aren't meant to scare people, but to wake us up, to see that history isn't drifting without purpose. Every event is a piece in a longer story. When you put these 7 events into that flow, they don't seem random anymore. They're like drum beats getting faster, signaling the climax is getting close. Not a specific day or hour, but the state of the world, more hurried, more fragile, with fewer things to lean on. You and I are living in that rhythm, whether we like it or not. In the middle of the chaos, the question isn't what's going to happen next, but where are we putting our trust? Technology, power, systems, and comfort have all shown their limits. When those supports wobble, people have to look for a different foundation, one that doesn't depend on electricity, data, or borders. Revelation ends with a short but urgent line. Yes, I am coming soon. It's not a threat, but a promise that history has an ending. In the storm of news, those words ring out like a call across time, making humanity ask where we stand in this picture. Time isn't plentiful anymore. The pace isn't slow. The 7 events have passed, but their echo still hangs in the air. And as the full picture comes into view, each person has to decide, keep chasing temporary lights or turn back to find the light that never goes out. After all we've been through lately, what sticks with us probably isn't fear, but a deep quiet inside each one of us. When the world gets loud with bad news, when storms hit the oceans, earthquakes shake the ground, society feels torn apart, and technology seems unsteady, we're invited to pause and look inside ourselves. This isn't the time to ignore things or put them off. It's the time to listen to that voice in our conscience and to God's call. The Bible never tells people to panic. It always calls us to repent and come back to Him. Repentance isn't just saying words. It's a real change in how we think, how we live, and where we put our trust. In a world that puts its hope in human strength, power, and systems, the message today is clear. Put the center of your life back on God, the one who doesn't shake when everything else falls apart. Praying right now isn't running away from reality. It's facing it with faith. When we pray, we admit our limits and open our hearts to guidance from above. No matter where you are, whether your faith is strong or you're still doubting, an honest prayer can still open a new path through the chaos. You might be wondering, like so many others, will the Christmases ahead still feel peaceful like they used to? And then there's that hanging question, not to scare anyone, but to wake us up. Could Christmas 2025 be the last one? Nobody knows the day or the hour, but we're all reminded to stay awake. To live like today is a precious chance to turn back before it's too late. If these recent events have weighed on your heart or stirred up some deeper thoughts, don't keep it to yourself. Feel free to leave a short prayer in the comments below or share what you really feel about what's happening in the world. Sometimes, a sincere line or two is a way for us to lift each other up in faith. If these messages mean something to you, please hit like, share this video with folks you care about, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the deeper insights and warnings in the videos to come. Every share isn't just support for the channel, it's a chance for someone else to stop and think. Thank you for sticking around to the very end, for listening, reflecting, and walking this journey with us. May God give you peace in the middle of unrest, light in the darkness, and a steady faith to keep going, even when the road ahead isn't clear.
Oh my God. This is just crazy.
Beam of light stretching towards the heavens or reaching down from a street lamp like a spotlight from above.
Was not broken or scattered. It appeared careful.
Have you ever wondered if the sky is whispering, the earth is groaning, and ancient secrets are rising up to warn us about an end-time storm quietly closing in, right on the doorstep of Christmas, the symbol of hope and salvation? As time seems to be speeding up, these signs aren't patiently waiting for us to notice anymore. From the dazzling light displays exploding across the sky in Norway, a cross-shaped symbol hanging in the air defying all logic in Ohio, to raging floods shaking Washington state, strange purple-gold beams shooting straight up into the Florida sky. From mysterious hovering lights dangling over neighborhoods across America, to unstable ground shifting in California, Florida, and Washington. And finally, ancient guardian stone figures emerging from the earth in the southwest, all of it coming fast, like an urgent wake-up call. Are these things just random coincidences, or are they piecing together a dark picture of an unstable future where humanity is about to enter the final days the Bible foretold? Keep going, because the truth ahead might make you pause and ask yourself, if time really is running out, are you ready? So don't skip any of this, folks. These could be messages that God wants to send straight to you. And now, so you don't have to wait any longer, let's dive in and look closely at each of the 7 signs below. We'll start with 1. The northern lights dancing across the sky over Lofoten, Norway. Imagine you're standing there on a freezing cold Nordic night, the sky pitch black like it's sealed shut, and then all of a sudden, it's ripped open by swirling streaks of green light pouring down like a waterfall in the air. That's the northern lights exploding over Lofoten in Norway. Not loud, but enough to take your breath away. If you're there, are you sure you'd just see it as some harmless pretty sight? Or would you wonder, why right now? The Lofoten Islands sit about 800 miles north of Oslo, and they're considered one of the best spots in the world for hunting the aurora. According to forecasts from sites like norway-lights.com, the lights can spread out over hundreds of miles, drawing thousands of visitors every winter. But what really catches people off guard isn't just that the aurora shows up, it's the strength and how unexpected it can be. For night after night, the sky over Lofoten lights up like it's alive and moving, with bands of green light twisting, spreading out, stretching for hundreds of miles. Some estimates even say close to 600 miles. On forums like Northern Lights, plenty of folks who've seen it say the lights appear even when the KP index isn't high, going beyond what regular forecasts predicted. That kind of beauty leaves people in awe, but it also stirs up a quiet unease that's hard to put into words. Scientists explain that the aurora happens when charged particles from the sun hit Earth's magnetic field, creating those familiar glowing bands. To them, it's a natural event that's been studied thoroughly, but locals and visitors often ask something different. If it's just natural, why has the frequency and brightness increased so much? Why does the sky seem more alive than ever? Like it's trying to send a message? In the Bible, Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." And Matthew 24-29 goes on to warn about upheavals in the heavens, when the powers in the skies are shaken. These verses don't explain the science, but they give the phenomenon a meaning. The sky isn't just for looking at, it's for warning us. So, those dancing lights over Lofoten aren't just a stunning natural picture anymore. They're like a first gentle knock, soft and far off, but enough to make you stop and look up. A warning from the north, not forcing anyone to believe, but not letting anyone completely ignore it either. And if the lights from the north are just getting started, the question is, what happens when the signs aren't vague or beautiful anymore, but take on a much more familiar shape? Because over the skies of Ohio, another symbol is waiting for you to face it. 2. A cross-shaped light in the Ohio sky. A holy symbol suddenly appeared in the night sky, challenging all the usual explanations. A cross of light hanging above a church in rural Ohio, like someone had pulled back the curtain between heaven and earth. It wasn't some vague glow or random shape. This time, the message was too clear to ignore. The sighting happened near Spencerville and Salina, about 100 miles from Columbus. Videos spread quickly on Facebook and local news sites, showing folks pulling over on the road just to look up. At first, some thought it was clouds reflecting lights or maybe a drone, but most people who saw it felt a mix of confusion and quiet awe, like they'd witnessed something beyond everyday understanding. The light was soft and steady, no flashing, no sound, just hanging there in a perfect cross shape, maybe around 300 feet up. No storms, no rain, no weird weather at all. On Reddit, people compared it to other strange lights from the past, but agreed the religious shape made it stand out and sparked a lot of debate. Scientists soon offered the usual ideas, maybe Starlink satellites reflecting sunlight, or a rare optical effect from clouds and lights lining up just right. But the big question that kept the argument going was this: if it's just random, why did it form exactly like a symbol that's meant so much to people's faith for thousands of years and not some other shape? The Bible talks about signs like this in a very different tone. In Acts 2:19, it predicts wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below. And Revelation 1-7 goes further, saying, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." Here, the Bible isn't some distant warning anymore. It feels like an explanation, giving real shape to what's happening now. On social media, opinions were split right down the middle. Some called it an overhyped coincidence. Others said it was an undeniable divine sign. And maybe the most important question isn't who's right, but if you were standing under that Ohio sky that night, what would you believe and why? No matter how you explain it, that cross of light did one thing. It broke through the everyday neutrality. It forced people to choose between seeing it as just a strange event or a direct reminder of something many try to avoid thinking about. And if the sky is already showing familiar shapes like that, what happens when the next sign isn't way up high, but comes rushing down to the ground? Because in Washington state, raging waters are quietly getting ready to answer that question. 3. Devastating floods in Washington state. You know, in these recent days, raging waters have shaken things up, swallowing thousands of homes in just a few hours. This historic flooding going on in Washington state hasn't given folks any time to get ready. This isn't just a weather warning anymore. It's a real emergency when nature shifts from quiet to to hitting hard. According to ongoing reports from the northwest part of the country, flash floods have spread from the Nooksack River to the Lewis River, about 50 to 100 miles from Seattle. Thousands of people had to evacuate in the middle of the night. Many main roads got cut off, bridges collapsed, or were badly damaged. Local and national news outlets describe the amount of water pouring down as equal to nearly 3 Lake Washingtons put together, with hundreds of miles of roads paralyzed. The water rose fast and fierce, in some spots going up 10 to 15 feet in a short time, sweeping away homes, cars, and even structures thought to be solid. According to OPB, the atmospheric river phenomenon, those huge bands of moisture from the Pacific Ocean, combined with the terrain and soaked ground, triggered a bunch of landslides, making rescue work dangerous and every minute counting. Scientists and climate experts explain that climate change is making these extreme rain events more frequent and intense. They say the weather systems are getting squeezed, carrying more moisture than usual, which directly caused this disaster. But even the forecasters admit that many numbers went way beyond what they'd planned for, so the response was slow in those critical first hours. In that situation, the Bible rings out like an ancient indictment being read again. Genesis 7:11 describes the moment. The fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened, not as some myth, but as a precedent for judgment that happened when order was broken. Amos 9:5 goes on to paint the picture of the Lord touching the land, making it melt and all its people mourn, a reminder that nature isn't always neutral or forgiving. Folks watching are seeing a reality. When the waters rise, there's no middle ground, no absolutely safe spot, just the fragility of people facing a power that doesn't negotiate. The flood doesn't pick victims by faith or ideology. It just moves forward. So this isn't simply a weather accident. It's a sign that the earth can get angry, and when it does, all the systems we've built show their limits. A clear warning that unstable times aren't far off in the future. They're right here now. And while the waters haven't even receded yet in Washington, other images are starting to show up down south. In Florida, strange glowing pillars are reaching up in the dark night, carrying an odd color, as if this story isn't planning to stop anytime soon. 4. The purple gold pillars of light in Florida. On those nights that seem so peaceful, a strange color slips into view, standing tall and quiet, like it's waiting to be noticed. The purple mixed with gold doesn't blink, doesn't make noise, it just shows up. And there we are, drawn to a sign that's hard to put into words, where your gut whispers that not everything that glows is there to guide you. At intersections around Palm Beach and Orlando, about 150 miles from Miami, thousands of streetlights suddenly changed color. According to Click Orlando and WFTV, the phosphor coating on the LED lights had a problem, turning the usual white light into purple. The issue spread quickly, all at once, covering streets in this unfamiliar shade, making the dark night brighter, but leaving people feeling uneasy. These pillars of light reached straight up 50 to 100 feet, no sound, no flickering, standing still like markers. USA Today described it as a glitch with the silicon phosphor layer creating the illusion of light pillars, but the feeling they leave goes beyond tech talk. The light shows things clearer, yet it makes directions feel hazy, as if the night is lit up to reveal something deeper that's off track. The Bible comes in like a hidden warning. Joel 2:30 rings out. I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke. This fake light appears in our tech age, highlighting the irony. Something man-made can shine bright, but it doesn't mean it's truth. It can light the way, but not necessarily save you. Debate broke out in two directions. The power companies say it's just a technical defect, a material issue, and they'll fix it through the process. Many others stay quiet on the question that doesn't even need asking yet. Why did the fault spread across the whole state? The same purple shade, the same straight-up shape, all at the same time. Between the two sides, Staying neutral feels fragile because light, which we trust, is now shaking that trust. So, these purple gold pillars of light don't need to be called miracles to make you think. They're a symbol of man-made failure, reflecting bigger unrest. When standards shift off course, light can go wrong too. And if the light is wrong, what else can you trust to lead you through the dark? From these fixed pillars of light, the story doesn't end. The light will leave the ground and float in the sky, and then the feeling of being watched won't be just a figure of speech anymore. 5. Soft-colored lights hanging over neighborhoods. Night falls real slow, and then a light shows up, just hanging there like it's breathing along with the darkness. No noise, no warning, just that creepy feeling running down your spine when the light stays put too long, right over roofs that are supposed to feel safe. We've all seen it in those videos. The moment the light appears and keeps its distance, close enough to make you uneasy, but far enough that you can't reach it. That odd familiar feeling slows your heartbeat, like something's watching without showing itself. In New Jersey, Minnesota, and California, places about 20 to 50 miles from New York, outlets like Fox 9 and ABC 7 reported lights that looked like drones hovering over neighborhoods. They come out at night, stay still in the air, then vanish as soon as someone gets close, leaving the sky empty like nothing ever happened. Witnesses describe the lights as steady, no sound at all, about 5 to 10 feet across, with soft colors that are hard to pin down. A lot of folks compared them to greenhouse LED lights, but the weird zigzag moves break any normal comparison. The lights don't speed off or land, they just hover, long enough to get you thinking. Scientists and local officials offer careful explanations: civilian drones, test flights, or light reflections. But the questions hang there with them. If they're drones, why no sound? Why the sudden disappearances? And why no traces left behind? Reason tries to hold on tight, while your gut quietly starts to crack. The Bible comes up like a visionary key, bringing back old images of things in the sky. Ezekiel 1-4 gets mentioned. I looked, and there was a stormy wind coming from the north. A great cloud, with fire flashing back and forth, and brilliant light all around it. That picture doesn't explain the sightings, but it opens a way to think about them. The lights might be a sign, not to calm us, but to wake us up. Comparing science and the Bible isn't about picking one over the other. It's about showing the gap between them. Science talks technology and odds. The Bible talks visions and warnings. When lights hover right overhead, that gap feels narrow, and the sense of being watched isn't some far-off idea anymore. These lights don't need a name to unsettle you. They remind us the sky isn't just neutral space. Some nights it looks back. And when lights track neighborhoods, the unease in society isn't far away. It's right above us. But it all hasn't stopped yet. The story's about to shift to the ground giving way. When the earth starts to betray us, where's left to stand safe? 6. Widespread geological instability. California cliff collapses. Florida sinkholes. Washington floods. Hot news. The ground is shifting under our feet. Cliffs are crumbling. Holes are opening up. Floodwaters are rising, all at the same time in different parts of the country. As we watch these reports come in, it's clear, nowhere feels truly solid anymore. Along the Big Sur coast in California, about 150 miles south of San Francisco, tall cliffs 100 to 200 feet high suddenly gave way and tumbled into the ocean, blocking roads and stopping traffic completely. In the Tampa area of Florida, sinkholes keep appearing, some as deep as 50 feet, swallowing yards, cars, and even getting close to homes. Up in Washington, near Seattle, heavy rain mixed with flooding soaked the soil, triggering landslides everywhere. Water rose up to 10 feet in places, forcing whole neighborhoods to evacuate right away. Maps from the USGS and reports from NBC News paint a worrying picture. These risks aren't scattered anymore. They're linking up. Flooding weakens the ground. Weak ground leads to landslides, and landslides make way for more sinking. It's all happening fast and connected, like some hidden process has kicked into gear. This isn't just isolated incidents, it's widespread instability. Geologists explain it with familiar terms: natural erosion, changing groundwater levels, climate change, bringing more extreme rain. Those reasons are backed by science, measurements, and models. But even the experts admit the strength and timing of these events are going beyond many earlier predictions. At this point, the Bible comes in not as comfort, but as a broader warning, where heaven and earth both bear witness. Hebrews 12:26 rings out like a declaration, "Yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens." Habakkuk 3-6 follows, "The eternal mountains were shattered, the ancient hills collapsed." Those old words put today's events in a bigger context, where the shaking isn't just physical, it's a revealing. Comparing the two views, one scientific with data and models, the other biblical with words of judgment, the overlap is plain. The foundations we count on as solid are actually fragile. When the land itself isn't neutral anymore, everything built on it, from homes to our sense of security, gets tested at the same time. These geological troubles are exposing deep weak spots in our modern world. They're signaling a collapse not just of the terrain, but of our shared feeling of safety. When both the physical ground and our inner foundations start to wobble, we're forced to ask what we're really standing on. And deep underground, ancient secrets are waiting to come out. What will those stone guardians have to say next? 7. Mysterious stone guardian. Buried deep in the southwest. From the dry, barren ground down there, a stone figure quietly emerges, giving you that eerie chill, like someone just woke up after centuries of sleep. And when we look at those first pictures together, the feeling hits strong. Something's standing there, staring right back at us. According to reliable news reports, these finds are scattered across Utah in the Red Rock area, about 200 miles from Salt Lake City, and in New Mexico near Hidden Mountain, just 35 miles from Albuquerque. Sources like the New York Times and various summaries say this isn't one lone discovery, it's a series of strange stone structures turning up in hard-to-reach spots, mostly revealed by surveys or natural erosion. The most debated one is a stone figure 9 to 12 feet tall, blocking a natural path through the desert. The body is intact, with carved lines on the surface that don't match any known Native American styles. Some descriptions from ASUSA mention details like horns and a stylized face, giving off an ancient yet unfamiliar vibe, like it doesn't fit into the usual human history we know. Archaeologists are being careful about it. Some think it could be a modern monolith or a forgotten art installation. But others wonder about its isolated spot, how deeply it's buried, and the way it guards the path, as if placed there on purpose, waiting for the right time to show up. Here, the Bible doesn't jump in to explain everything right away. It hangs back like a verdict not yet given. In the book of Daniel 2:31, there's a vision of a huge statue, gleaming and terrifying, standing tall before the king. That image doesn't spell out the ending. It leaves a long pause, where the full meaning only clicks when the time is right. That pause is what makes this whole thing so haunting. For some folks, the stone figure is just a prank from modern art. For others, it's like a gatekeeper, marking the line between what we should uncover and what we'd better leave alone. Online debates are split right down the middle, between logical skepticism and that nameless unease. Whether viewed through science or faith, the guardian just stands there, silent, no explanations, no defenses. It's that quiet presence that makes it so powerful. A warning not yet spoken out loud, a judgment not yet handed down, but strong enough to make people hesitate. So, we've just gone through 7 strange events happening one after another right before Christmas. Let me know in the comments which one has you thinking the most. When you put these 7 events side by side, the picture doesn't feel scattered anymore. It all comes together like a huge mosaic that's piecing itself right in front of us. Lights explode in the sky over Norway, hang around above Ohio, turn Florida purple, and just sit quietly over neighborhoods here in America. At the same time, the ground shakes, water rises, cliffs collapse, and sinkholes open up like they're ready to swallow everything. And deep underground, an ancient guardian figure shows up, standing still, like it's been waiting for this moment all along. From icy northern Europe to our big old United States, these signs aren't popping up in just one spot or along one single line. They're spread out over thousands of miles, happening all at once, one after another, like the sky and the earth are both speaking up together. The lights aren't just for shining anymore, and the ground isn't just for holding us up. All the familiar things we count on are starting to shift, shaking that sense of security we always thought was rock solid. In the Bible, Jesus warned, there will be great signs from heaven, big earthquakes, famines, and plagues in many places. Luke 21:11 isn't talking about one single event. It's describing a series, a process, where the signs pile up like waves coming one after another. This isn't the end right away. It's the beginning of birth pains, that messy, chaotic time before history turns the page. Looking back at these 7 events, we see exactly that pattern. The sky speaks first, with lights, with shapes, with things nobody predicted. Then the earth answers back, with floods, landslides, geological unrest, like the world's foundation is testing how much it can take. And right in the middle of it all, we're stuck there, not just watching from a safe distance anymore, but part of the story ourselves. The scary part isn't any one event by itself, it's how they're all happening together. When the lights show up in remote places and over cities, when the ground reacts from the coasts to the heartland, when ancient symbols rise up just as modern faith is shakiest, the question isn't, what's going on over there anymore? It's, where are we in all this? The Bible always says these signs aren't there to satisfy curiosity. They're meant to wake us up. They don't force anything, but they make you face things. Not every light leads the way, not every piece of ground stays steady, and not everything buried should be dug up before its time. These 7 events, when you put them together, sound like an alarm clock going off in the middle of a deep night. Nobody knows exactly how long until morning comes, but one thing's clear: the night isn't quiet anymore. Time isn't on the side of ignoring it all, and the future, even if it's not fully here yet, is being announced with signs we can't brush off. When it's all said and done, the most important thing to remember is this: these signs weren't given to spread hopeless fear. They aren't meant to drive people into panic, but to wake us up, to warn us, to remind us that time isn't endless. The Bible never uses signs as a way to scare folks. It's more like a bell ringing to get people out of bed before it's too late. Jesus said it plain in Matthew 24:44. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Being ready doesn't mean trying to guess the day or the hour, and it sure isn't about running around scared. It's about getting your heart right, taking a good look at your life, your faith, and the quiet choices you're making every day. Those lights in the sky, the shaking on the earth, the old things coming back, they're not here to answer every question. They raise a bigger, deeper one. Where do we stand with God, with the truth, and with our own conscience? When the heavens speak and the earth answers back, we can't pretend we didn't hear it. So the call here isn't to panic, it's to listen. Look up at the sky with eyes wide open, listen to the ground with a humble heart, and get your soul ready with real repentance. The future might feel shaky, but it's not hopeless if we know where we're headed. Even in the darkness of these warnings, the light of Christmas still shines through. It's not a loud or blinding light. It's the quiet light of hope, of salvation, of a promise for anyone willing to open their heart. But that light only really means something to those who choose to wake up instead of turning away. If what I've shared makes you pause for a moment, makes your heart feel heavy, or pushes you to think a little deeper, feel free to leave a prayer or a personal thought down in the comments. Sometimes just one honest line is enough to start a real change. And if you think these messages ought to reach more people, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next videos, where we'll keep looking together at these shocking but meaningful signs of our time. Thank you for sticking around to the very end, and may peace be with you in every thought and choice ahead.
Teen Cup season wins. He truly was a legend on the track.
But those of us here in North
Earlier, we spoke with Paul Kirby. He witnessed a shooting along with his wife and his children. Paul Kirby.
Return now to President Trump's latest attacks on Somali immigrants in Minnesota. About 84,000.
Is humanity being awakened or judged? Folks, the world just doesn't run in the familiar old way anymore. It's shaking, crashing, and steaming like a pressure cooker about to blow. From streets in Europe burning with protests, to Asia on edge over wars, from skies over America where death comes out of nowhere, to the dark corners full of corruption deep under the ground in Minnesota, everything is screaming at once. Do you feel it? Or are you still scrolling through the news like it's somebody else's problem? What's happening isn't just hot stories, it's thunderclaps one after another, hard hits straight to the conscience of mankind. The Bible warned about it. Famines, wars, persecution, moral decay coming fast and furious like the final labor pains. Today, we're going to go through 7 shocking news items one by one, peeling back the layers of truth to see clearly what's shaking this earth. Get yourself ready, because this isn't a video just for fun. This could be the warning that humanity's time isn't long. Very likely, those veils of truth waiting for you up ahead are the messages God wants to send you. So don't miss a single piece of news. And now, without making you wait any longer, let's dig deep into each event and the meaning of the message it carries. 1. Thousands of farmers surround Brussels in revolt against European communism. Brussels was plunged into chaos in the early morning hours. The capital of the European Union was no longer a place for quiet meetings and cold agreements. Instead, it turned into a real battlefield as thousands of farmers poured in, bringing huge roaring tractors that crushed the usual order. Fires shot up high. Black smoke rolled into the gray sky, like the land itself was angry and demanding to be heard. What are we seeing here? This isn't just an ordinary protest anymore. It's an explosion of desperation. Farmers from France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and many other countries rushed to Brussels, turning the wide streets into a sea of steel and wheels. They didn't bring weapons, but they carried the fear of losing their land, their way of life, their future, as the EU-Mercosur deal opens the door wide for cheap goods to flood in and squeeze their family traditions dry. The air was thick with the smell of gas, burning tires, and raw anger. Tractors blocked every way into the EU headquarters. Fires were lit right in the squares, and tall columns of black smoke stood like a challenge. Police hit back with water cannons and tear gas, spraying like a downpour. But the crowd didn't scatter. Around 10,000 people stayed put, chanting support for the farmers, making Brussels shake like it was having a fit. In the middle of all that mess, words from the Bible echoed like a cold whisper. Matthew 24:7 says, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places." This uprising isn't just about policy fights. It's a sign of the final birth pains when the old order starts to crack. Then even darker pictures come from Revelation 6:5-6. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I looked, and there was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand, a quart of wheat for a denarius. The black horse of famine and economic unfairness seems to be galloping across Europe. You and I can't help but think of these farmers crying for help, forced to weigh every single grain. Some say it's just a trade dispute. Others call it communism in disguise, wearing the clothes of globalization. But when millions of people are pushed into a system they can't control, when land is priced like cheap goods, it's no longer just economic theory. It's a fierce clash between greed and survival. Clearly, the Lord is letting the curtain be pulled back. These farmers in Brussels aren't just fighting for their fields, they've unintentionally become the cry from the earth rising up to heaven. And if Europe keeps shaking like this, the question hangs in the air. When the foundations collapse, what will rise next from the shadows? 2. Japan speaks out about wanting nuclear weapons, with a bold message and challenge from Asia. We can only rely on ourselves. A tough, no-nonsense statement just came out of Tokyo that's got all of Asia on edge. Japan, the country that still lives with the shadow of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, has suddenly broken its long silence. In the end, we can only rely on ourselves. It's a short sentence, but it's enough to shake up the balance in the region. Japan, the nation that swore never to touch nuclear weapons again, is now talking about how we can only rely on ourselves. It doesn't sound like a big announcement, more like an admission that they're backed into a corner. For you and for us, this isn't just dry politics. It's a sign of growing fear in a changing world. After World War II, Japan lived under the long shadow of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, holding tight to its 3 non-nuclear principles like a final moral line. But now, with North Korean missiles flying overhead, China stepping up its military pressure, and alliances looking shaky, that line is starting to fade. Defense spending is shooting up, closed-door talks are happening more often, and what used to be off-limits is now out in the open. In a short press briefing, the words came out with clear meaning. This isn't something you can buy quick, and it's not a brand new idea. Those words spread fast across Asia, sparking heated debate inside Japan. People are split between the peaceful constitution and fears for survival, while China hit back hard, calling it a return to militarism. America's silence right now just makes things look more suspicious. Matthew 24:6 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Don't be alarmed, for these things must happen, but the end is not yet." Those rumors of wars aren't vague whispers anymore. They're taking shape in strategies, warheads, and quiet decisions. Then Revelation 9:17-18 comes to mind, with its terrifying picture. From their mouths came fire, smoke, and sulfur. By these 3 plagues, a third of mankind was killed. Those ancient words suddenly match up in a scary way with today's nuclear talk. Fire, smoke, sulfur. They're not distant symbols anymore. They could be real. Some folks have spoken up, arguing it's just one person's opinion, not official policy yet. Others say Japan has no choice but to defend itself. But when the country that still carries atomic scars starts thinking about going down that road, the question isn't just for Tokyo. It's for the whole world, for you and for us. Clearly, the Lord is letting these rumors of wars get louder and clearer. And when life or death choices are made in quiet rooms, the scariest part isn't the explosion. It's the moment before, when we still think we're in full control. 3. A horrifying moment. Plane-carrying NASCAR racer Greg Biffle crashes into the ground. Family shattered at Statesville Airport. No warning siren had time to sound. No chance to turn back. In just a few short seconds, a calm morning sky turned into a blazing hell. Have you ever wondered how fast everything you love can vanish in one single moment? On the morning of December 18, 2025, at the small Statesville Airport in North Carolina, a Cessna C-550 plunged to the ground like it was yanked from the sky. It wasn't a bad landing, not a minor bump. It was a direct crash, exploding and burning up everything left inside the cabin. On board were Greg Biffle, the legendary NASCAR driver, along with his wife and kids, a family, a private flight, a trip that seemed so routine. Just a few feet from the runway, it all ended. Statesville, usually so quiet, suddenly became the center of grief and shock. Eyewitnesses stood frozen as they watched a fireball shoot up dozens of feet, with black smoke swallowing the sky over the airport's more than 700 acres. It dropped like a rock, one person said in a shaky voice. Condolences poured in from the NASCAR world, from Jeff Gordon to Kyle Busch, but no words can fill the emptiness left by that family. This isn't just an accident, it's a direct hit to the heart of America. With aviation incidents on the rise, this tragedy feels like a bigger crack in an already troubled picture. The sky, once thought to be safe, now seems frightening. The Bible warns in Luke 21 that people will be scared out of their wits by things coming from the heavens. Looking at that moment when the plane burst into flames, it's hard not to feel a chill. Life is so fragile that one wrong beat and all our securities disappear. Some point to Psalm 91, talking about angels guarding us on every path. But that very thing raises a tougher question. What happens when people live far from God? When faith gets replaced by overconfidence and false control? Debate erupted right away. One side says it's just a technical failure, weather or human error, a random tragedy in cold statistics. The other side sees a clear warning, too many coincidences happening at once to call it chance. And the question hangs there, unanswered. Is this just a heartbreaking accident or another wake-up call ringing from the sky? When death comes down that fast, how much time do we really have left to get ready? If the sky isn't as safe as we thought, then where is our true refuge? Stay tuned for the next update. Because this time, the shock isn't coming from above, but from the most sacred place. 4. An old American church, lit up with blue, red, purple, and yellow lights, turned into a lively music stage. I've stood in that church before, when the only light came from the stained glass windows and the prayers were soft, like quiet breathing. Every stone, every arched ceiling carried the history of faith, of generations kneeling in silence. And now, today, that same place glows bright like a concert stage. Beams of blue, red, purple, and yellow lights sweep across the old vaulted ceiling, bouncing off statues that once had candles lit for prayer. Music booms loud, clapping mixes with cheers. I stood there, not angry at first, but with a deep sadness over a sacred beauty changing shape right in front of me. In America, this isn't rare anymore. New laws about using religious spaces allow churches to be repurposed if the congregation shrinks and they can't keep it going. With budgets running low, many dioceses have to choose between closing forever or opening up in a different way. The law sides with saving the building, not necessarily keeping it holy. Those who support it make good points. They say it's better to let the church live on as an arts space than let it fall apart empty. They say the lights and music bring young people back in, even if not for prayer, at least to walk through the doors. To them, this is adapting, not betraying. But from where I'm watching, I see a line getting blurred. When a place once set aside for God turns into entertainment, the question isn't just, is it legal? But is there still reverence? Which side would you take? Save it at any cost, or keep it holy even if it means closing the doors? The Bible doesn't stay quiet on this. In 2 Timothy 3:1-2, the warning is clear. In the last days, there will be tough times. People will be unloving and not respectful toward God. When folks put convenience and feelings above reverence, faith slowly gets replaced by performance. Revelation 18:2 hits even harder, describing a place once noble but turned unclean, not because the stone walls changed, but because its purpose did. Worldly lights won't make the building fall down, but they might quietly drive the spirit away. This debate isn't simple. One side says it's the last way to save religious heritage. The other says better to lose the building than lose respect for God. Neither side is quiet, and neither is backing down. When the line between sacred and everyday gets thin, it's up to each of us. What will we choose for the future of faith? And if churches here on earth can change roles so fast, What's waiting for human faith when it drifts from God to chase other horizons? The next story